Technology, I had faith in you.
Oh, okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
Um,
Um,
I'm going to bring you up on the big screen so we can read some
uh,
comments. And guys, this is Scott Kiloby. And Scott, um, I have read your stuff and watched your videos for quite some time, and it's very interesting. Uh, you are I I don't know how to classify you. Not that you need a classification, but you're not a non-duality teacher.
not
Um,
not so much anymore, but the work speaks to the embodiment of that. But
it
it's not
does.
sort of the classic non-duality teacher, whatever that might mean, or the one that you might recognize. You might not recognize me as such when I'm talking. That's true.
Um, but I initially did uh, my first introduction to your work. Um, I, I thought you were a very interesting non-duality teacher because you spoke a language I don't always hear in non-duality. You mentioned love a lot. That you woke to a presence of love, but not the typical uh, way that we use love. Um, and I found that very interesting. And then I watched you um, literally embody that love and offer so much. You give so much away for free.
Mhm.
Amazing. And you're
Thank
giving more away now. This month, I think coming up, you're gonna have uh, on your YouTube channel. Uh, can you tell us what you're offering?
I give a free webinar every weekend. So I have this weekend, every weekend we have a free webinar because this particular modality is unique and people haven't tried it. So I just let them, try it, whoever shows up on the weekend. But people can go and do the work for free at repressiontest.com. You can just go learn it yourself. The webinar, I guide people through the process and teach them that way.
Um, so what is it?
Well, what happened is after starting teaching, I was more of a kind of a classic non-typical teacher speaking about presence and such. So I had buried anger and I didn't know it. And then I got to a place where I started to get diseases and I didn't understand that it was coming from repression. The first disease was cancer and I couldn't link it. But then I was diagnosed with spinal stenosis, which turned into really incredible nerve pain in the back of my spine, which was completely related to my awakening experience. I knew it because it was in the spine and I felt that. But my doctors were telling me, well, you have spinal stenosis. But it took me a year and a half to finally start kind of digging in there to see if the science was right that buried anger, because there's a bunch of science on it. Buried anger creates chronic pain. So I went down into my body one day and I felt into the pain and I said, I'm not angry at them. I just said that, like the opposite of that. My pain contracted. Through about a year and a half development, I found how to make conscious of a hidden mind body connection inside the body, repression, that is responsible for repressing emotions. So I developed a method to basically it makes those mind body connections conscious and awareness that are so buried. They're responsible for that deepest contraction in the body. So we found a lot of insights that came from that. We found, just like the science says, there's a way to see how repression produces our suffering at the surface. So I started to teach from that, just like from an embodiment approach, processing buried emotions and present awareness from the beginning of your path so that you don't bypass the any buried emotions.
When I view it now from when I first read you and watched your videos, um, it really seems like a just an extension, like a natural growth process.
Um,
Uh, you went from that awakening to helping people with addiction.
yeah,
Uh, in a way, you still are because we're addicted to those
yeah,
issues that we've hidden from ourselves.
yeah, yeah. It's been a natural progression for sure. In some ways, it might not even appeal to some people unless they find repression. But it's been a natural extension of this path because so many people were like me in that they missed buried emotions too. And I used to do a lot of one-on-one sessions, and I would find people who were getting sick and continuing to suffer after being exposed to some of the teachings. So I really started focusing on somatic work much more with everyone.
Um, how can we be addicted to something that we think of addiction? I know I'm addicted to alcohol. I know I'm addicted to drugs or whatever. How can we be addicted to something that's buried so deeply that we don't even realize we're
Addicted to, what do you mean in that case? Addicted to?
well
Like,
addict the repression? We're addicted to the oppression emotion
Yeah.
Uh,
I would say we're addicted to the love and the safety and approval that we get, the needs that are connected to the buried emotions. What I discovered, speaking of love, is I had the experience of non-dual, awareness, that shift, but I couldn't embody the experience of love in relationships because of the buried anger. So as I explored that, what I discovered is that for myself, when I look back at my childhood, had my parents been conscious, just theoretically, they probably would have been able to allow me to feel and express all the emotions. Now that I've done that and done buried works with buried emotions, there is a sense of wholeness and completeness that I never had before that comes from allowing all the emotions and processing buried emotions. That's why I talk about finding safety and love within. See, I think that if we were a more conscious species, this would be just very just understood that you have to find safety and love within. But we're not a conscious species, so we often don't deal with those needs, and we try to get them met through each other. That's what I'm focusing on is the unmet needs, the addiction there
right.
that's tied to repression. Yeah.
So we really think of trauma as um, something traumatic has been done to us. But I remember reading in one of your books, you had very loving parents. You had a good childhood up until a point when um, things went a little off the rails,
Yeah.
so to speak.
Yeah.
So, we think of repression that we're repressing the things, all the horrible things that have happened to us. But, really, it could be, I've heard some of the examples you've used in your shorts. Um, it could just be feeling a particular lack of love from a parent. Uh, what are some of the examples of repression?
I think I was surprised to find out that people would report when they went into their bodies that, like, when you make a kid do this sport instead of that sport, or this thing instead of that thing, but you never give the child a chance to feel and express all the emotions, that child has to bury a lot of anger. Now, when you think about religion, if a child has to adopt a religion, that child hasn't been given a choice. That's a thinking, feeling being that isn't being given a choice to feel something or to, object to something or have their own authenticity. So we do have to bury a lot just to survive childhood and become the ego that we become is what we find here with repression work.
And then, of course, all of that is stored in the body. And as you mentioned, more and more work is coming out. I always forget his name. A back doctor. He's done great work with forgiveness and back pain.
Yeah.
Paul um, Sarnik,
Dr. Sarno?
yes,
Dr.
Paul
Sarno. Yeah.
Sarnik.
John Sarno. Yeah.
Um, is that related to the repression?
Yeah. He was my inspiration because when I was in a lot of pain, I just couldn't find the answer as to why there was so much pain there. I didn't feel like the doctors were giving me the right answers because I thought that there was an emotional link. And Sarno's 5 books helped me understand the mind-body connection with regard to he must have really understood that there was a mind-body connection. And then later on, I understood that, when you're a kid, if you can't feel anger, you also can't think it or express it. Or if you can't feel hurt, you also can't think it or express it. So there's a mind-body connection. So from Sarno, I learned how to work with the mind-body connection in awareness to really make it conscious, not just emotions, but how the mind and body are connected around repressed emotions.
Right.
That's what I got from him, which was great. His
Um, and you've kind of he was an inspiration, but you kind of arrived through this through your own work with your inquiries that you've been offering for quite some time.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, because it was a natural extension of the somatic work that I was doing, but it was missing something because my somatic work couldn't reach repression. Obviously, I missed it myself. And so, yeah, it was an extension of that. But I think I needed the influence of like Dr. Sarno and even Ken Wilber, who would always say, well, do your spiritual work, but you have repressed emotions probably too. And I kept hearing those things as I was sick. And I just inspired me to go add that into my practice.
We kind of think that our awakening experience is enough. That is the answer to the problem, and it might be the answer to the problem of seeking,
Yeah.
uh, but it's not the end result.
Right. Is that what you teach here on your channel? I haven't watched a bunch. It sounds like a good message, though.
Um, Actually, quite a bit about forgiveness. I talk a lot about, of course, miracles, which has been my own practice,
Nice.
um, as well as we do some breath work. We do a few somatic exercises, just grounding in the body, um, you know, butterfly tapping and things along those lines. But it's any healing modality uh, I just want to bring up and bring to people's awareness. And I think that the shorts that you offer are brilliant, because each one's a mini teaching.
Thank you.
It's not. Um, uh, I think people can get a real education in what you're doing just by watching your shorts.
Thank you. Appreciate
Um,
it.
so how does forgiveness play a role?
I definitely think so. But, there's a lot of anger repressors who come to this work, and I know that I experienced like a trying to premature forgiveness before I dealt with some of the stuff that I was harboring from the past. So yeah, there's a deep forgiveness, of course. And the non-dual teachings say it's all within. You can, really forgive from within, and I think that's true. But I skipped over the piece of I'm really angry at some people from childhood, and I couldn't skip over that and get to my forgiveness. And I was trying, I was trying to bypass that. So it's like everything in my life, yes, but I had buried anger. Yes, but I had to deal with my anger.
Right. Um, do you think that there's bypassing and quite a bit of uh, the non-duality experiences, awakening experiences that we think that we're done?
It's funny because it's not funny, but if you ask an anger repressor on a spiritual path, do you think buried anger is the issue? And I think a lot of us, and including me, said, well, I don't really get angry a lot, so it's really not the issue. But that's also an indicator of repression,
Right.
that you can't, if you can't get angry. So I think that a lot of us are drawn to spirituality, maybe unknowingly, because we do seek peace and safety because of what we store, and we may not know it at the surface that that's what's driving us. Not, of course, everyone, because you can't conclude everyone is doing something. But I've seen a lot of evidence of anger repression being drawn to spirituality for different reasons that aren't necessarily embodied reasons. You know what I mean? Because we have trauma, and we don't know what's driving us here, is what it is, I
Right.
think.
Um, working with people with the with deep repression, deep repressed emotions. Have you noticed any difference when you're working with addiction as well? That there's a correlation.
Yes. To the awakening process, or just to repression?
Um, really, both, I guess. That that through your through the inquiries that you've done, leading people out of uh, their addictive thought patterns, um, is that enough, or do you still need to go specifically for addictions? Do you still need to go into the body and search?
I think it's an individual case, of course, but my experience with people is that yes, they do, because there's a lot of people on the spiritual path who still have addictions, and I think there's a good reason for it. That could be an indicator that perhaps you have buried anger or hurt, and that if you're on a path and you're bypassing the addiction is like an indicator, it can be. And then when we work with it, what we find is addiction is so good to work with in the body because it shows us about a lot of things we do in life as we're anger repressors is we have to be good in the world. And when become addicted to stuff down buried anger, which is already something bad for us, that produces the repression itself produces shame. And then if we get addicted, a lot of us want to quit the addictions to get love and approval and coming from the shame. So the repression drives the compulsion and often the desire to quit, which traps people in this cycle of not really being able to put addiction down, but rather just substituting one for the other. And I think that spirituality should address that because people are suffering with that. And I don't know how to divorce addiction from spirituality. Actually, when you ask, because I suffered with addictions even after I woke up, I had to deal with it, and it was in the body. I've had to deal with it myself.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I so many people have come on stepped upon a spiritual path because of their addictions.
Yeah.
Um, and I don't know, as you mentioned before, uh, maybe the substance leaves, but the addiction itself might be replaced with something else. That we're no longer addicted to alcohol, but
Yeah.
maybe addicted to spiritual experiences.
Yeah. So
Or
that happens for sure. Or anything. I've learned anything that keeps us safe from our buried emotions, to put it in that perspective, anything that could do that.
Do you find it's this is a repeated process? You can't just dive in. It's not a one and done deal. Well, I've spotted
It
the
really
anger.
it really isn't, no. Because, if I say to people, "Well, think about every day where you weren't conscious of it, but every day you train like an athlete to hold the anger down, your system did." So to approach it that way would not I don't think it would treat it with the right amount of respect for the system. It's a survival system that has buried emotions, and they're really strong mind-body connections at the base of all that. They're so it's almost like somebody said, "If whatever you do to try to get rid of contracted, it can reinforce it." And so you have to be really skillful, we find, and patient to see what has happened down there is that you've stored something. You just have to make them mind body conditioning conscious. That's what we think, because if you try to apply force to it, get rid of it, it just doesn't work very well. So it's a process of gentleness and allowing, and it takes a bit because there's resistance there.
Um, so, how safe do you feel this is doing it alone?
That's been an ongoing thing for us because what we've done is we put 2 markers in the work, so even when people do it on their own, we say, "If you don't get the 2 markers, just go ahead and quit and come talk to us." The 2 markers are when you're doing it, you should feel regulated by it if you're doing it skillfully, because it's actually dissolving a really core mind-body, connection that's creating disturbance at the surface that's in some way. So when you work with it, you should feel grounded more, and that's the first marker. And the second marker is you should also see the dissolving or the transmuting of that core fear where what we normally bypass, the repression itself. So if you put those two things together, you have a safe and effective practice, which we think is important on something like this. Because I'm glad you brought it up because it's buried emotions, right? It has to be
Right.
safe.
I had someone ask me that. They sent it to me. Um, if you don't mind, I'll read it. Um,
Yeah,
she a little bit of background in for context that she learned to bottle up everything from a very young age. Her mom wasn't emotionally available to help her grow and develop or nurture, so bottling everything up was her only choice due to
yeah.
her dad's reaction was negative. The question was, how do I safely release emotion without spiraling downhill or hitting a crisis?
That's a legitimate fear, but if you have a good we have a good modality that is tried and true, and if you follow the 2 markers, it really is designed to make sure that doesn't happen, just to let her know. That's what we've thought about this. We've done deep dives into this for safety and for our own safety and everyone's. So, if you do it the way it's developed, you don't ever really experience dysregulation, I wanna say to her. If we get your skill correctly. If the skill is a little bit off, the system will produce some suffering to tell you to stop, is what happens.
Right.
But if you're skillful, it won't happen that way.
So it's almost like you've presented a fail safe
If people
inquiry.
follow protocol, yes, but how
Right.
we right?
And her follow up that was, and how do we find a safe space when we feel if we let go of our emotions, tears will never stop, and there will be an ocean of tears.
Well, yeah, it may be, but so like with anger repressors, we think it'll be an ocean of tears, but that could also be the thing on the surface that we've been used to, and it actually may be anger that we have to then integrate. In any way, it's not going to last forever because there's a process that we show you that when the repressed emotions come to the surface, it's about unmet needs. And the unmet needs for love, approval, and safety are operating in your relationships, and they're generating the suffering. So when you make the anger or the hurt or the sadness conscious, it's really an opportunity to go even deeper into your own authenticity, to not be coming from needs which are creating suffering. So I want to give her reassurance. And it really doesn't, if you keep going in the path, it doesn't become about just being angry or hurt all the time. It's about dealing with these issues that weren't dealt with in our bodies and in relationship.
Um, so do you find that as you as you begin, you're drawn into it more? You literally become an explorer within
Yeah.
your own system.
You really do. You also become a master in a way because you get to see the unconscious, which is something new for people to see that. Like if you imagine an iceberg, we're often even in our awareness teachings, and me too, for a long time, we're only aware of what's arising, but under the water, we can't see the repression. But as we make that more and more conscious, we see the whole thing. We see that our anxiety comes because we're afraid to express anger, or our depression is at the surface because we're afraid to show hurt and sadness. We can see the direct connections, and that insight alone is helpful as to where our suffering is coming from.
right. I love the sound of it because it is where you're presenting is wholeness uh, and zero bypassing, um, and everything's honored and allowed. There's there's no well, that's enough for today. Um, you know what I mean? That
Yeah, yeah,
you're
yeah.
um,
Hopefully that's what we offer. Thank you for recognizing that.
sure. Uh, it, I think you're doing. Uh, I love seeing this from the non-dual origin and how it's developed because I think sometimes we people get stuck uh, in that initial awakening experience or the next big one,
Yeah.
and then it's well, it's time to hit the lecture circuit.
Right.
And
I tell them, yeah, I say it all the time. Yeah,
but
so true.
you really set a commitment to helping others. You're the entirety of career has to me has been marked by compassion.
Thank you. Appreciate it. A little bit of trauma too, but yes, compassion.
Right. Well, you think it's the trauma that has led to the compassion?
I do. I mean, you can't separate them. But, just to be honest, there was definitely unmet needs and repression driving me, as you say, on the circuit, the lecture circuit series in the beginning, much more than there is today.
Um, so what was it? What was the from the awakening to the embodiment to knowing that now it's time to be of service?
I almost went back to my prior life as an attorney when I saw my own bypass. But I really I doubled down on the idea that I came here to teach because there was an authentic aspect of it despite my bypass. I just had to find that and find my voice in it and do some inquiry on if my voice is different, can I stand in my perspective without suffering and identifying with it, just stand in my that's been an interesting challenge.
I love thinking how you know everything is serving in some way that maybe it was your initial bypassing that led you to uh, scratch your head and say, so who else?
That's what it was. Right. There's gotta be many others is the way I thought of it. And I think there are a lot of others.
Do you work with a lot of others from a non-dual tradition, or is it really across the spectrum now for you?
It is across the spectrum now, but plenty of people from non-duality come for sure.
It's interesting because everyone wants that final declaration of liberation,
Yeah.
um, and it's just I don't know. I just don't know if it's enough.
I don't think it is for most people. If there's some I've heard some teachers say that maybe a small percentage of people in every generation, a very small number, have some massive awakening. But I don't know if I've ever met the person. I don't know. I think it takes a lot of earnestness and honesty within to on that
Right.
issue, right?
I always liked Douglas Harding and the Headless Way, and he does the pointing experiments, and then very simply says, "Okay, now you've seen. Go out and live your life."
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
and Kenneth Wapnick, a course teacher, uh, would talk about awakening and uh, listening to the Holy Spirit and getting that guidance. But he made a great point of just be normal. Um, as I mentioned to someone today, you don't need to contact the Holy Spirit for your choice of salad dressing. Um,
Right.
so, um,
Yeah.
how did you had your initial awakening, but that didn't answer the deep down emotional repression.
I thought it did. For the first 3 years, I didn't have much suffering. There's a lot of just peace and joy. But then I got a cancer diagnosis, and that's when I started to learn that something was going on. And then there was a series of things after that. So that's just how mine unfolded. I had that 3-year honeymoon period.
Right.
Yeah,
But there must have been something there that recognized that there was something more.
definitely. Especially getting sick. But also in my relationships, I could tell that there was something there wasn't a really genuine connection on some level, but I couldn't pinpoint it. You know, with repression, it's hard to pinpoint that. But this has filled in the holes on that. That's what it was. It was repression.
Um, how do you see it maybe possibly broadening from this point, or maybe narrowing down, maybe even a little more uh, pinpointed? Which one do you
We're,
think it would be? Broader or
um,
both?
we're pretty pinpointed already because we're focusing our inquiry on two core fears that are buried in the body. It's pretty pinpointed, but we're broadening the like it has applications in a lot of different areas because it has to do with human relationship. So we're going beyond the spiritual world, hopefully, into the healing and the therapy world eventually, helping people in that area.
Have you guided anyone through this and they've had their own spiritual awakening at the same time?
Yeah, but the awakening is different here because you're processing buried emotions from the beginning. So there's not such a desire, or the seeking gets taken care of a different way because we connect the seeking to the repression to the extent that seeking is trying to get us to avoid buried emotions. So that seeking energy slowing down that way and the embodiment happening kind of first in a way, when the awareness recognition happens, it's not necessarily, oh, suddenly like that, because we're not seeking it like that. It kind of is more easily recognized because we're finding that the identities come from the buried emotions. So when you work with those identities that are coming and going and seeing those falling away naturally, the awareness is already there. You don't have to point to it; it's right there. It's a different approach, like body first rather than awareness first, body last.
Right. It seems like it was save a step
It's
because
yeah, safer, I think.
you know people often talk of after the awakening embodiment, and you're going with embodiment.
I think I won't be the only one who gets sick or experiences this wonky post awakening thing. So I think if we process buried emotions first, maybe we have less chance of that. Hopefully.
Right. Could you give a sort of a synopsis of how you approach uh, the process?
Yeah, I'll do it with your folks, an easy one, a simple one, if you want me to.
Uh, sure. Do you want me to see if anyone has something they want to work
Yeah,
with?
that'd be nice to work with something that's relevant for someone.
Um, I have heard that on a recent short or maybe it was on a live stream, that you don't want to end a live stream until someone has a genuine embodiment experience.
Well, it's more like that somebody comes out of denial about being an anger repressor because in those live events, they can't really have it, like a shift, and that's not we don't think of it that way.
Right.
We get them started with consistent practice. But yeah, we do that. I'll go into a live event and I'll say, "Who here wants to understand their repression better?" And then we'll have a dialogue, and then they'll go, "Oh my gosh, I didn't realize that this is maybe the root of my suffering."
So, what would be how should I phrase this for our people in the live stream?
So if maybe there's a trigger, a recent trigger with someone, or a belief that's persistent, or some pattern that has been difficult to work with in spirituality.
Okay. So, guys, if you've had a recent trigger that you would like to explore, Scott has offered to lead you through this process. In the meantime, our friend Adam says that how could self inquiry, I'm not sure I'm getting this. Better question. How could I self inquire for repressed hurt and anger?
That's what we're going to do today. Actually, we'll probably dip into that today here soon.
Okay. Hey, Adam, do you have a specific trigger that you want to work with? I think he would be perfect because it was Adam uh, who
Yeah.
uh, mentioned you a little while
Right.
back.
So Adam, if you can hear me, if hurt and anger, if it's buried, or if they're buried at the surface, there may be something that's appearing for you that you don't yet connect to the hurt and anger. Can you tell me something at the surface that you're aware of? It's not the repressed emotions. Like
Okay,
a story, like
Adam's
I'm not good enough, or anything really that appears.
right. He said recently, I got pissed at my brother and didn't yell at him, but said, "What the hell?" I meant, and I think he's selfish.
So you didn't yell at him, did he? Does he think he's more of a hurt or an anger repressor? Just curious.
He said more of a hurt or anger.
He's more of an anger repressor.
Is this Adam? Do you think this is more hurt or anger in the repression?
He may not know which one's repressed most, but
He said he found his comment ridiculous and it just pissed him off. And he
okay.
usually doesn't get pissed off. So we'll say angry.
Okay. Well, what I like to do is just assume, but I start with anger repression work because there's so many anger repressors in spirituality. Adam, if you end up being a hurt repressor, what we do is we turn the same skill towards hurt repression that we're going to do today. I'm going to do it on anger repression today, though, just so he knows. So, what we can do at the surface is if you close your eyes, anybody can join along, is pull up someone who upset you, like your brother, Adam. And as you all are doing this, just kind of bringing awareness down into the inner body and letting sensations be there while you see the person that's triggering you or that triggered you in your awareness. So, a really simple way to do KI that's connected to like ego identity that we hear, like, I'm not good enough or there's something wrong with me, is Adam, if you could just look at your brother and feel into your body and say, but what does this mean about me? Or what does this mean about who I am? And then just listen to the inner body, see what happens and what comes up. What does the brother's comment mean about me? Listen to the inner body. See if, did Adam say anything? She's still looking.
um, let's see. It says maybe heard. I don't feel repressed.
Right. But we're just looking for something at the surface, more like a belief about yourself with your brother. It's more like it's not repression we're talking about yet. We'll get to that. But we're just more like what's conscious for you. It's an easier question than you're taking it to be,
It
maybe.
says he felt a tightness in his chest.
Okay. Does he have any thoughts about his brother that we could work with at all?
Do you have any thoughts about your brother that we could work with from here? That Scott could work with?
Yeah, anything?
Um, he accused me of not being thoughtful, and I find him to be incredibly thoughtless
Hmm.
about his speech and action, which is very judgmental.
Right. Okay. So does Adam, do you have any idea how you feel about yourself in that, or is it just about how you feel about him? Is there any insight as to how you feel about yourself in that relationship?
So we're looking for thoughts about himself.
Yeah. That was the inquiry in the beginning when I said if you pull someone up who's triggered you and you say, what does this mean about me? Usually the system will produce an old childhood belief like I'm not good enough or there's something wrong with me that underlies the trigger. And we use that to get to repression. But if nothing comes up, it comes up. I'll have to make something up if he doesn't bring something.
Um, so, Adam, any thoughts regarding towards yourself?
Yeah.
He says he feels always put. I feel I always put other people needs in front of my own, especially my family.
Okay.
And he
Yeah. So to this, this is just for Adam, but others may be able to relate to this. Bring your family up, Adam, and say, as you feel into your body, I don't have to take care of their needs. And then just stop and see what your body does. See if it contracts at all. Say it several times. I don't have to take care of their needs. So you can check the body each time. If the body responds, that indicates repression. As you keep saying it, I don't need to take care of their needs. There usually should be a rise in the energy, like you're revving it up. And if there is, here's the method. You say into the energy repeatedly, I have to take care of their needs. 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 So you're firing that right into the energy that holds that information, so to speak, the contraction. Keep going. I have to take care of their needs. You see, you're making an old mind body connection that's buried conscious. Just keep making it conscious there. I have to take care of their needs. That can allow the energy to change too, in some cases. But there's a very strong mind body connection, Adam, behind it all. And you're making it conscious right now. I have to take care of their needs. I have to take care of their needs. I have to take care of their needs. And then stop for a moment, Adam, and look at your family and say this: I'm not angry at them. If you're an anger repressor, you wouldn't feel anger here. You would feel the contraction. So you say it again: I'm not angry at them. The body can't lie. So if there's repression of anger, it responds. I'm not angry at them. If you feel that in your body, you bring this into the energy now. I'm angry at them. 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 In a way that the mind and body are aligned. Like the body's saying it and the mind is saying it right with it. I'm angry at them. I'm angry at them. I'm angry at them. Making that mind body conscious can allow energy to move that wouldn't otherwise move. Stay with it. And I'll finish it out here in a second. It's supposed to be uncomfortable, but it can help transmute energy if you stay with it. So stay with it. I'm angry at him. I'm angry at him. It's just giving your body what it already believes. We have one more left in a second here. Okay, so Adam, I want you to stop for a moment and look at your brother and say, I can get angry at him or I can express anger to him. And then just trust your body. See if it just gives you a yes or a no. And you say it a few more times to check. I can express anger to him. Say it as many times as you need to rev that up. I can express anger to him. That turns into the rapid fire, into the body. I can't express anger to him. 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 Now you're making the mind body connection of repression conscious, which is the most important one. I can't express anger to him. I can't express anger. Fired right into that energy. That's what's happening at the trauma level there. So see, is it something much more active than what we see at the surface? If it works for him, he'll see it.
Our friend Terry was going through this as well at the same time with something different in his um, comment that he had made earlier when you were asking um, uh, for it was, I'm not good enough. I don't deserve her.
Yeah, very common. So for that, you'd be like, I'm good enough. And the body says no, because it remembers that you have to believe that. So you say, I'm good enough. And it keeps saying no. And then you rapid fire, I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough. But not to affirm it, to make conscious something that's really very buried. Well, even these identities are very unconscious. They're in the body, as you probably know. So you sit there and say, I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough. By making that conscious, it leads you back to your anger repression. So you go straight back, if you're an anger repressor, to where we went. I'm angry, I'm angry, and I can't express it. It always goes there, just like I just did for every anger repressor. If that's confusing, guys, it's free. You can go to repressiontest.com and I teach it to you there.
It's really a deep conversation going on in your body.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. That you're not
uh,
aware of at a conscious level.
right. So um, it, I forget which form of psychology they talk about submodalities,
Mhm.
which we could call sort of voices within the body that have been repressed.
Like
Um,
IFS or internal family systems or something else.
um, I think I first read about it in neuro-linguistic programming, and uh, from which they derive their psychological method, the submodalities. Um, which uh, again would be those the voices. We could say like the modality of our conversation now, and then the submodality is would be the voices that are unable to be
Yeah, right.
expressed.
Makes sense for sure.
So we're using our conscious voice to open up and have an actual conversation with those voices that have since whenever.
Yeah, exactly. Or another way of saying it is that we're making conscious mind body connections that have been there forever. That we've been angry if we buried it since the begun. So it's just making something conscious that's been here. A mind body connection is how I talk about it. But yeah, it's the same way, two ways of talking the same thing.
Um, I can just imagine the deep relief that you must be seeing through people as this voice that probably never thought it would see the light of day.
Right. Man, people are shocked about how much anger they have buried. But then, yeah, because it works and it helps them relieve suffering, they'll stick with it. It doesn't scare them if they stick with it. But it's kind of shocking at first.
So, is this even an ongoing process for you?
Yeah, it was for a long time. But then I got to a place where my pain was gone and I didn't feel any discomfort. I just had to look at some relational patterns. So I keep the work in my back pocket in relationship in case there's some patterns because, I bypassed for a long time. So I don't assume that I'm done and I just stay open.
Right. Do you find that a lot of people might do this until there's relief, and then you know, awesome, I'm better. Um,
Yeah. And then they kind of go, they might not be done. But sorry about my dog here.
oh, that's okay, guys. If you want any, Scott, are you okay with some questions? What kind of dog we talking about?
Which one? We have three here. That
Uh,
was a chihuahua.
uh,
Couldn't you tell?
I couldn't.
Okay.
Are you okay with if we see if anyone has a few questions?
Yeah, sure.
Guys, any questions for Scott? Adam says, is a person who is easier to anger than to cry possibly a hurt repressor?
Did he say he's more prone to cry?
Yes, is a person who is easier to anger than to cry
Oh,
possibly a hurt repressor?
yeah, that's probably correct. Hurt or sadness and or sadness repression.
And our friend Terry, who was going along with you when you were doing that, said thank you so much for that.
Okay, great, Terry. Hopefully it helped. If somebody's still struggling with it, again, you can get it for free at repressiontest.com and slow down and learn.
Uh, Kat sent some hearts, some love to the puppies,
Thank you.
and Terry said he had read some of IFS systems.
Very similar to the voices of IFS. We kind of get to the repression that kind of creates the voices, but it's all connected.
So he said, or Adam said, so you could do the same uh, inquiry with hurt, um, but on an, I'm not quite getting that.
Oh, he's right, though. You can't do the same process on hurt. If you go to repressiontest.com, you'll just do it on hurt repression. You'll see how to. Just like we did it with anger repression here.
Scott, do you have any suggestions of using this for sleep issues?
Yeah, there's a lot of sleep issues with repression. Because at night and in the morning, but especially at night, when we wind down, we might not be doing our usual strategies of avoiding things and here things come up and then we create anxiety. But what we do is just we teach people to go to the anger or the hurt that they didn't express during the day, because often anxiety, as the science says, will come from repression. So, you don't want to just manage the anxiety. It's good to get to the root if it is repression, because it'll keep coming back. But people really focus on that. Like if there's anxiety for sleep, they have to focus on it if it's related to repression, because if that's why it's coming, they have to do it that way.
I don't know if this is a question you could address or not. How does chronic pain from a 40-foot fall relate or influence a Kundalini rising experience?
It may or may not, because Dr. Sarno said that with regard to traumatic injuries, the pain could be from the injury. But at the same time, it's not that black and white, because we found people with traumatic injuries and then the repression goes to vulnerable areas. Dr. Sarno said that. So if you have an injury, which I had, it can go to a vulnerable area. So it's like a mixture of the injury and the repression creating pain. But what was his question?
Um, does it? Do you think it? Does it relate to or influence a Kundalini rising experience, a fall, an impact?
Oh, I don't know the specifics of that. I don't know what he's really asking here. I mean, sure, certainly an injury can affect, because the physical and emotional are so connected, that my abnormality in my spine had something to do with holding anger here and not letting it flow through when I had my spiritual shift. So I think there's definitely a connection, but I can't say, I don't really know the circumstances of what you mean by the fall and how that's
He had
related.
fallen from a tree, 40-foot drop,
As if the
and
trauma created the fall, is he saying? Does trauma
um,
create?
did it? Would it influence a Kundalini rising experience? Do you think?
It could block it. We have people who have blocks in their spine, which they get diagnosed, like I said, like I did with something. But when it comes right down to it, it ends up being emotions quite often. So that's certainly related to energy in the body, as it's all connected. And Kundalini trauma, right? Trauma can stop Kundalini. Trauma if it's too scary.
Right. Um, Again, going back to the word "feel safe," your body shutting down to prevent something that it's very
Protect,
scared of,
yeah, protect you. Yeah,
which I guess is the very definition of repression.
yeah, for sure.
Repression really serves in a way,
Yeah,
inadvertently, but
yeah,
we could see it as the body's attempt to be helpful.
exactly. Even when it isn't, but it does help us, because if we can't express anger and hurt to people, what else are we to do? The system is taking care of us in that way.
Does gratefulness play a role in any of this?
Yes, but I always say, like, when you go for those things, don't go for those things at the expense of buried emotions, because the mind likes to go to the safe spaces, and the spiritual concepts could be these safe spaces. There's a place for all of it, gratitude. But when you go to the place which you're really avoiding, the gratitude is deeper, the forgiveness is deeper.
So that they are the byproducts of the natural byproduct of the practice itself.
Of any good spiritual practice, I would hope, you know.
Um, Kat says, "What do you think about if someone is unable to express anger, instead they cry?"
Yeah, that's more like me. Anger repression. Anger repression, kind of more classic anger repression. I'll be working with people and we'll get to that contraction in the body that holds the anger, and the tears come up. And I have to teach them how to allow the tears, of course. But right under the tears or the sadness is the fear of anger. And then if you can go back into it, you can kind of see why the sadness comes up all the time. That's how we see where suffering comes from, because it's safer to show sadness if you're an anger repressor to your condition.
So somewhere along the line, we felt that our anger, um, we didn't deserve to be angry, or we would be punished for our anger.
Yeah. Or
Um,
people wouldn't love us. We would lose everyone or be rejected or humiliated or something.
was that a big thing for you? Feeling that we wouldn't be loved if we?
Yeah, I felt that growing up. Did you feel that? Did you repress anger? You know?
I did feel that way, and I think that it was the development of humor as a form of uh, self protection.
Very common.
Um, I would like to think I'm just a funny guy,
Well,
but I can see how I have often used humor as a mask for quite a bit.
there's a lot of people here like that. And so we can find the trauma response that creates the need to be funny. We can find it in your body, the need to make a joke in a certain nervous moment, all that.
Right. Almost right now, I'm thinking of this, and I don't know if I should thank you or to blame you.
Right. That's how people feel about me.
Right. Right. And actually, can we touch upon that for a minute?
Yeah.
How do people feel when this comes? Because I feel just having that come up, and I'm feeling, conflicted, a sense of relief, but at the same time, uh, there's this, oh boy, how long has this been going on?
Hmm.
Which has been my entire life. Um, again, I want to thank you, and at the same time, um, I guess I got to sit with this and see it through. It's how often does this come up, and then the immediate response is, I got to repress it.
A
Maybe not in
lot.
so many words, but
A lot. I think a lot of people have a lot of different responses to when I'm talking about it, from vilifying what I'm saying or me to feeling ashamed to feeling triggered to feeling, you know, just that feeling of like, well, anxiety, you know. So, but I think that's all natural because we're talking about what you've buried, so your system protects you to produce things that keep you from doing it. Really.
could you talk about anxiety a bit?
Yeah. If there's a bunch of science, if you go to ChatGPT, just say, any of you can say, what is the role of buried anger with anxiety? And it'll tell you, it'll show you the studies. It makes a lot of sense once you've done repression inquiry, but if you haven't, it doesn't make a lot of sense. That it's safer to be anxious at the surface than it is to have boundaries or even get angry at people or show hurt. It's just safer to be anxious. It protects us. It's weird to say that because anxiety is not safe, but it's safer than buried anger to the system or buried hurt.
Right. It's could we say it's a softer voice for the anger?
Yeah, it's like a way of identifying with something that you even are distracted from the fact of having the anger, you know?
Um, Jess had said, Jess was the one who asked about sleep. So she said, so I'm not decompressing before sleep from my day. Makes 100% sense no matter how I tried. Um, the next day, making excuses why I can't do anything because I'm so tired. So that is an expression of guilt.
Yeah. And there could be all kinds of things wrapped up into that, like things that we're not saying during the day to people, and then we're holding on to those emotions, and that creates the anxiety and the sleep issues and the regret and the doubt compounds on top of that.
Um, so do you offer something like a let's do this for 21 days, let's do this for 30 days? And I can imagine how I would think the description afterwards would be I feel light.
That's definitely the description, but it takes longer than that because we have such resistance. It's a linear path, so really people have to be in it for several months to get that lightness if there's a heaviness to anger, repression, and trauma. But yeah, there's a certain period of time where if they stick with it, they experience that lightness of being. But I
Um,
can't say it's 21 days. That's one thing I
right.
can't say. Right.
Well, we love our times. We love the the 7 laws of overcoming uh, repression. 15 easy steps to
Right. Yeah. Don't
uh,
have those, but
right. We certainly do want a quick fix, and I can see how even going through this once uh, leads to a very profound healing, uh, but not healed.
yeah. I mean, I think we also it's safer to have a one-off than it is to continue processing. We have to keep that in mind too, that might also be have some connection to repression, that we want a one-off. See.
Um, Kat had said that she was very scared to express anger because I've hurt people before.
Yeah. With anger. See, but that would beg the question, is it hurt or anger repression? Because we have different experiences. Like a hurt repressor often gets labeled as bad because they're angry a lot and they have to suppress the anger to survive. But anger repressors don't express anger. And so I don't know which one she represses, and I would have a different answer based on what that knowledge would be.
So I'm sort of taking it that um, we can get angry with someone, uh, and maybe for a legitimate reason, but we see the hurt on their face, um, and we feel so guilty for what we believe we've caused in someone, the hurt that we've inflicted upon someone,
It's true.
that we're actually
Yeah, sorry. Well, it's true, except for people who repress hurt because they sometimes repress empathy and they have trouble seeing and having that empathy. But
right.
yeah, we anger repressors definitely have empathy. It keeps us from getting angry, too angry, because we can see when we've hurt someone. But not every well, everybody has some degree of empathy unless they're a psychopath. But when you repress hurt and sadness, just in a family, sometimes you have to repress empathy because if dad's not okay with you saying you're hurt, dad's not okay with saying that you hurt someone or someone else is hurt.
How important is it, the specifics of labeling?
Thank you for asking that. I think it's really important because we don't do it as children if we repress emotions. If we don't do it on our spiritual path, we're keeping those same unspecified emotions buried. So by specifying them and the mind body connections related to them, we can come out of repression. But if we're too vague, one of the, I think, trauma responses from repression is just being very vague about what's happening to us instead of specific.
Um, do you find that each is expressed almost like a different voice within the body? That
Say that again. I'm sorry, I didn't hear the first part.
do you find that there's a different expression, like a different voice for each within the body? Anger is going to repressed anger is going to speak a certain language.
Yeah.
Repressed hurt is going to speak a different language.
Yeah, and it also helps us in different ways to have those emotions because anger gives us our boundaries and our power and our authenticity and even safety for intimacy and all that. And then hurt gives us that recognition of when someone has hurt us. It also helps us for our heart to open because you know that hurt and heart are so connected, or love. If you can't feel hurt, your heart can feel cold. So you need that. And then sadness to grieve and let go of people and move on. When you look at all the emotions, you think, God, whoever created this probably didn't make a mistake. We're just really unconscious to certain emotions. If we could allow them, we wouldn't suffer. We could have those in our experience and feel like that we could respond to each other better. That's how I see it.
Do you think you could view this as a path in and of itself?
I do see it that way. I really do. Because you have to come to the awareness recognition to do it because we're processing buried emotions and you need that present awareness. So it just naturally dawns on you that there it is. And then with the processing of the buried emotions, it takes care of how we're creating suffering. So it's a pretty complete path, whatever that means.
To me, it seems yogic in nature.
I'm sure it's like
Um,
some things in the past. Yes, more like that than some of the stuff that I used to teach for sure.
right. You know, uh, yoga can be seen as sort of a gradual path. You begin with the ethics, and you have pranayama, you have the asanas, you withdraw the senses, and then you have 3 stages of meditation going into
Yeah,
samadhi.
I
Um,
like
and but once you get to samadhi, you can still have some repression going on, and this seems like the short path of yoga uh, that you're saying we're using awareness, which is the end result of yoga, but we're starting with it, and when you know, for the inquiry seemed like a full body asana, that
it.
we're diving into the body uh, to have it reveal itself.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. The body first, as we say, because it's driving things, it keeps the score. So why not go there first?
Sure. Do you do any in your somatic practice? Do you do any breath work, anything that might lead to this, or make it a little bit more like a guided inquiry?
We have an ancillary practices that support the repression inquiry. A lot of different things, of breath and stuff, but nothing in particular front and center. They're all supportive of the repression inquiry. If somebody can't self-regulate through that, they'll go to some other practices to support.
Right. Um, any like body work practices you think are helpful? Do you think massage would work with this?
I do. I've actually, when I had a treatment center, we weren't supposed to be doing it because but when people would come and you could feel the knots of how they would hold energy, and then we would teach them how to do the somatic work. And by doing the massage and that together was really powerful. But also like Reiki, we're training Reiki masters who are combining things, and like the vortex healers, some people from that, we're mixing and matching things, putting things together like that.
It's sort of amazing that we haven't thought of um, the spirituality of healing,
Yeah.
the spirituality of being whole. We've complicated it, um, and I don't think it has served us in a lot of ways.
Well, let's start it now, me and you. Let's keep it going.
Well, I'm so glad I brought you up,
Yeah,
Scott.
well, I really appreciate you because not many people invite me to an interview like they used to. I appreciate that you're here talking about it and you invited me.
Um, well, I've been through my own battles, uh, addiction, uh, and late life were probably always underlying depression and probably always underlying anxiety, but it became prevalent my mid 50s. And And then I topped that off with imposter syndrome because I was teaching yoga, breath work, and I'm a meditation instructor. Um, all the things that I'm supposed to be guiding people through. And here I am suffering it along with insomnia. Uh, I felt, who am I to it? Pretty miserable.
Understand?
Um, and, again, I think, guys, if you visit Scott's YouTube page, he offers so much in his shorts, and I think you get a complete education of what he's doing, or at the very least, you get a complete invitation um, to explore deeper. And he's offering so much. Um, so I'm here to support you any
Thank
way I
you.
can for you, Scott.
Appreciate you very much. You
Um,
too. I support you too.
thank you. This is what I do. I show up and I show up and talk. I'm a professional.
Every day. Every day at 1 or 2:30.
Three times a day, every single day, 2,000 times in a row.
That's a
Um,
devotion.
at 5 o'clock in the morning,
Yes.
1 o'clock in the afternoon, and 5:25 in the evening.
That's what it
Um,
takes to get people to listen.
and really, just I want to be a place where I can do my best to listen to them. Maybe not offer anything other than a "I'm here." Sometimes, to me, that sort of reminds me of what you're doing with the body. You're showing up to the body, and
Just
you're
to hear.
saying, "I'm here. Finally,
I can
I'm
hear you
here.
talking.
I'm present."
Right. It's the same thing. Absolutely.
Pretty amazing. I I did not just go through an entire inquiry with you, but I feel burst open a bit.
But
Um,
did you go through it a little bit though? Did you
I
try it?
did, I did, um, and really did lead to that um, the insight with the humor. My humor has changed. Uh, now there's a very gentle laughter when before it was a bit of a divisive uh, laughter.
Right.
Um, and I think you gave me a definite way of exploring this deeper and further. If you get an angry text from me, uh,
Then I know you're doing well.
well, I was going to say, if you get an angry text from me, I'm not repressing.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I get those emails sometimes. Thank you, Scott. I'm finally angry after 45 years.
My, but you're providing um, it's not just anger for the sake of anger; it's anger for the sake of healing. I hope
Yes.
people,
100.
yeah, I
Yeah.
hope people realize
Don't
that.
end up angry on this path. You end up free. But we just say you have to include the anger before you get the freedom if that's your repression.
Right. Which is all about what you originally started with. The awakening was about freedom, about liberation,
Yeah.
uh, and now uh, it seems like you're there.
Yeah, well, it sounds like I just didn't know about that part. When I was talking
Right.
about freedom, I just didn't know about this part. But yeah.
This is going to sound weird, and I want to know if this is part of the process for you. Uh, I watched some of your earlier conversations on Back Gap, and you were heavier.
Yeah.
You look very fit right now.
Mhm.
Uh, do you think this is a process of your work that you've shed layers of protection that no longer served you?
Yes. Plus, food is different because when you have repression, you eat for comfort or safety. You don't even know it. And so I just started choosing different foods. My body responded differently to food. It's hard for me to eat like processed food, too processed foods. My body just doesn't like it. And that just happened naturally. So it makes you wonder how much of our trauma is behind the food. Well, of course, it's behind addiction, but behind how we tolerate certain foods, even.
Oh wow, wow. Um, allergies? Do you think?
I don't have any. Well, I don't know that I have any. So I can't
Well,
say anything about that. But allergies are connected to repression. I mean, even the Greeks found
that's
that.
what I was wondering. Yeah.
Yes, yeah, for sure. And people work
Um,
on it here, but I don't have it. That's not my thing.
right. There, your the first Back Gap interview was I think 14 years ago, and you look younger and in better shape now
Thank
than
you. You know, it's
14
weird when
years ago.
people say that, but that's what it is. I think it's like with repression. You discover yourself with this work more. I'm glad that I discovered so I can spend the last years of my life feeling more like myself.
Do you mind if I ask how old you are?
56.
56. So I got you by 4 years.
Oh, really?
Um, by the way, I don't know. Uh, people may have visited your site by now. they might not realize that you're a very talented musician.
That's my secondary thing I do for fun. So I play my half-written songs sometimes on YouTube if you want to check it out.
Um, by the way, Kat says that she needs to spend a lot of time with Scott, and you can actually because you are offering this.
I am. Every weekend there's a free webinar. If you watch my shorts, you'll see it come across the link or you could go to Instagram and the webinar link is there every Monday morning, the new for each week's webinar. Instagram.
Um, it's Scott, our friend Squirrel Sniper. He's my top mod. He dropped your YouTube link.
Oh, good. Thank you. And also
Uh,
repressiontest.com. Don't forget that's the free work. That's probably the best place to go to actually if you want to dig right into it.
and I should have all of that. I don't know if I have your YouTube channel in the description, but I will take care of that after this.
Thank you. Appreciate
Uh,
you. I will, if
Scott,
you don't mind, I'll share this on my side because I would like people to know about you or anyone who talks about this.
definitely whatever you can take out of it. If you want to make, if you go through it and you want to make some shorts of some of the things that you've said,
Yeah,
whatever you need.
perfect. Can you send me the file? How do I get that? We'll talk about that later.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah.
Um, and honestly, like I said, I think that this is, I just see it as a complete spiritual path.
Thank you. We think so.
So, Scott, we're going to let you go. I appreciate the time that you spent with me.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Thank you, my friend.
All your people. See ya.
So, guys, I'm going to spend a few more minutes with you before we wrap it up. It was big. Did you hear that big sigh? Allie Bird, I saw you come in. Hey, Terry. Terry, thank you for going through that. Hey, Sab. Sab, thanks for being here. Sab has subbed to Scott. Awesome. Kat says, thank you, Scott. It was very, very, very good talk. It was. Very much so. Again, I've been following Scott probably since his first back gap interview. Back gap, by the way, is Buddha at the gas pump. I might need to ask him to come up. All right, so guys, I'm going to wrap it up. I'm going to go to bed. I appreciate all of you guys. I hope you found this as helpful as I did. Hey, Cobart. Cobart. With that, Adam says, thank you, Yogi and Scott, very much. Adam, thank you. Adam, you were the spark. I hope you realize that, my friend. You were the spark that made this night happen. Starseeker says, great guest. Thank you. Thank you, Starseeker. Jerry says, thank you so much, Yogi. You're welcome. Kat says, love you, Yogi. Sweet dreams. Sweet dreams to you, Kat. Jess says, this was very informational. Thank you. You're welcome. Hi, Cora. Cora, how are you? Cora, everything okay? Hey, Cora, my email is in my description. And if you want, you can email me whenever you would like for anything that you need. If you just need an attentive ear, I'm here for you. Cora says she's okay. I'm glad. Terry says, thank you, Adam. All right. Love you guys. Come on by, hang out with me 5 a.m. if you want. Tomorrow is Wednesday. Oh, you know what? Tom Wakechild was supposed to come up. He can't make it. So I don't think I have anyone until Friday. But you never know. Someone might reach out. Core says, I appreciate you so much. I appreciate you, Core. All right. Love you guys. Adam says, that was pretty awesome, Yogi. It was pretty awesome. Adam, please give yourself so much credit for making this happen. Terry says all the love. It was amazing. Terry says I'll be there. I appreciate that. Terry, I have your channel up because I want to hear some music before I go to bed. And I love that title. The first one that I saw, Sharing What's Inside. Love you guys. I'll see you tomorrow. Allie, you have a wonderful night too. Thank you so much for coming in. And I will, Cora.